Oh, friends, I knew that when we were going to be working on a John Deere, it would bring out the armchair warriors in full force, giving their expert opinions on things that they know very little about. So before we get started, we are going to address some of that right after this. Welcome back. If you haven't seen my videos before, I'm Ross the Oliver Man. This is a 1020 John Deere that we are working on because the owner said the power steering had not worked for years. Upon inspection, me never having seen this tractor before the other day, we determined that it has, in fact, manual steering on it. So at one point, the dealer took it in to work on the steering, and it came back like this. And that is just what happened. That is an actual fact. This tractor came out with power steering, and they'd had a problem, and then they sent it in, and it came back like this with a reman engine, or a whole different block, I should say, and the manual steering. And last time, I hypothesized in my story about how I believe this came to be, because it really is an odd occurrence, is it not, that you would have something like that happen? To which the armchair warriors sprang into action. One person gave me a big ranting about how there's no physical possible way that hydraulic oil could ever get into this engine. Well, I agree with you. Right now, there's no physical way that hydraulic oil could get into the engine, but there was before. On the early tractors, which this one is and used to have, just like my 2020, had an engine mounted front power steering pump. When I say that, I don't mean it had a happy little belt connecting a pulley to a pulley. I mean it was in the timing cover and was gear driven off of the timing gears. And the shaft that the drive gear is on is also the same shaft that one of the gears that is the vane of the pump is. I've never had it apart, but I can look on the parts book and tell you that it is quite possible that hydraulic oil could get through there in that setup. And that is probably what happened to here. Now maybe it didn't happen. I don't know, maybe something totally different happened. But I'm telling you that on the early tractors with that engine mounted hydraulic pump, let's say, or engine mounted power steering pump, I should say, that it is possible that hydraulic oil could mix with your engine oil and sad things could happen. Now, I think that people don't understand exactly how that was set up. It still has the main hydraulic pump, just like they all did till the end. Even the other newer models kept that same design. Everything else on the tractor stayed the same, except they did away with that engine mounted power steering pump. And they just switched the power steering column so that they could run it off the main hydraulic pump. So another person said in a comment that that's why they only ran engine oil in the power steering pump. No, you could not do that on here because it shares the oil with the hydraulic system. It's just got its own pump. It sucks the oil out of the hydraulic system and goes through its little pump deal there, and then shoves it into the steering column, and then it returns right under the floorboard into the hydraulic system. So you cannot put a different type of oil in if you have that type of system. It's going to run off of hydraulic oil, just like the whole thing. It's just another pump. It's got that transmission pump, you want to say, that pushes the oil forward, the main hydraulic pump, and then the early ones had that engine mounted power steering pump. So that is another thing about it. The third comment, or series of comments, I think there was more than one, about what I was talking about and people don't understand. Somebody said, all you got to do is put that column on and not worry about it. Well, I can't say that for a fact. On the later ones, yes, because this section of the tractor from here to the clutch was different. And I believe on those, they did have the passageway made where the return oil would go straight back into the reservoir where it goes. But that is what I was talking about on here. I do not know for 100% certain that this one has that passage that goes that way. I think it just has a passage that comes out the side, like on mine, and then you had that line coming out of the side cover. That's what we're going to find out before we order parts, because I may or may not need that side cover to have a place to get the return oil out. It doesn't make much sense to me that they would put a passage that goes down in there and then also have one that comes out to go to a fitting. I would say it was one or the other, and when they changed the way they did it, they simplified the system and made that housing different so that it would return the oil where it needs to go. But in this case, we have to have a place for the oil to go, so we're probably going to put the other side cover on and plumb it back into the tractor so that all is right with the world. I brought it up here because we are going to actually clean up on it a little bit, because it is covered with trash. And I probably should just take the hood off before we do it. But you see how full of garbage it is down in there. And that ain't doing nobody any favors. But what I wanted to do was trying to take you on a journey of how the oil comes out of here so that you can understand how it works. And I really think that I'm probably going to have to take the hood off for you to understand that, so you can see the reservoir up here and understand. We just did all this. We worked on mine. We worked on my tractor, and it should be very clear after watching those videos, if you have, on how that works. And that open center steering pump was on there. That's where we fixed that initial leak that was pouring out of there. And this one is set up the same way, except they took off that separate pump. Now we've got a drip down there going, and I don't know what that's going to be about, but we should probably just shut the gas off for now in case that's what it is. But I think it's hydraulic oil is what it is. But this thing needs some stuff, you know. It needs attention. It hasn't gotten a lot of love in the last years, and not love as in taking care of it, but love as in it's just been used. And I guess it's just been one of those things where you use it, you understand its quirks or its flaws, and you just live with them. And that's the whole deal. So yeah, but I'm going to try to clean some of this out, and then we'll power wash it off. And then before we start, we will explain perhaps the path of oil travel, so that we can figure out where we're going to tee into it at, and what type of fittings we're going to use. Because, I mean, ideally, I guess you'd say shortest route possible, and you would think get some compression fittings and saw into a line. That's kind of how they were. But then, like, this one of them has a union up here, so perhaps it would be better if I just hooked into that up there, and you know, but we're gonna have to saw a couple lines and get some compression with like a JIC T, and so we need to figure out what size line we're gonna need that, because I'm not good at just looking at that and saying, oh, that's 5/8 line or that's whatever. But anyway, step one is going to be to give this quite the cleaning, because it's a dirty little feller. And I'm thinking that I'm going to have to get, like I said, this is learning for me here, because ours does not have all the original stuff anymore. Ours is very much more destroyed. So this has got still the latches, and I kind of in theory know how they work, but yeah, they unhook from that. But we're gonna have to get that should have freed the front. We're gonna have to get wrenches, I guess, and take those bolts loose, because we got us some, and it looks like they're different sizes on both sides. That does not surprise me. That's how life works. But we'll get that hood pulled off of there, and then perhaps we can get a better idea, like for example, what's leaking. You know, once we get this washed off really nice, we can work on it and actually fix some of that stuff that's happening. You know, we don't want all those leaks. So let's try to make it nicer and see where that gets us. All right, let's see if we can get this loose. I wonder if that is actually, would those things be captured in the hood where you don't need a wrench on the backside? That would be handy. Of course, mine doesn't have that anymore, but that would be. See, we're going to learn some things when we do this. We're going to learn a lot about how it was original, because mine is long past that. I mean, this has all been caved in and straightened a bunch of times. Let's see if this one follows suit. Ooh, it's coming. It's just, it's stiff. Probably got a lot of grease and trash on the backside, and I'll explain why in a minute, because I bet I know. Let's see if I can make this hood come off gently. Since it's got all the original things on it. Look at that. Nice little hood. Put all of our caps back. All right. So if we follow our progression of oil here, then you will understand what's what. This fitting has obviously been changed at the same time the other stuff was, because if it was still had the one that it had in it when it was born, it would have had a second nipple out of it and another line that went down to the, whatever you call that, the pressure bleed off or whatever for that separate pump, which consequently sat down in that hole. So that would have been the way that was. We worked on that on mine. But if you look at the way this sort of thing goes, let me try to visualize it with the lines here. So you see there's 3 lines here. This one, let me get this right, and I might get it wrong still. Okay, this line here is the suction line from the reservoir, which is the rear end. And so our oil goes up through that into this pump right here. Now, that transmission pump is on the other end of this line back there, and it's pumping oil happily up to this pump. And for the most part, you know, it would be able to probably pretty well keep up until you started putting a real demand on the hydraulic system, like using the loader constantly and using the remotes, doing 3 or 4 operations at once, you know, hitting the brakes, all that. You could actually potentially starve this pump for oil. So they thought ahead on that. So your oil goes in here. What it doesn't need goes through that tube. It goes up to this reservoir tank, and it fills this reservoir tank up. Then from there it leaves and it goes back down and eventually makes its way to the you know what I'm saying, makes its way back to the reservoir and goes again. Now this tractor, interestingly enough, does not have a hydraulic cooler like mine does, which I did not expect to find. Mine, half of the radiator, like not half, but a fourth, let's say, of the radiator is a hydraulic cooler, and then it actually goes, I think, from here to here and then comes out the bottom. I guess they figured on this littler one it wouldn't be in such demand, so they didn't do that. I don't know. I'm not a Deere expert. But for simplicity's sake, we're saying that's how she goes. The oil comes in here, goes in there. What it doesn't use, it puts in this tank, and when it gets to the top, it overflows, goes back down, and it does that, you know, pretty well all day long. Because the strange thing about this hydraulic system is it used several different types of pumps. This is a closed center pump, meaning it doesn't send any oil out until there's a demand for it. So the whole time it's going, it's receiving oil in there, and if it's not using any, it's just going to go straight up to this tank and back, because that transmission pump is an open center pump and it's always circulating oil. It has to circulate oil. So it's circulating oil through this whole system, whether that pump is using it or not. Whenever that pump needs oil, or something on the tractor calls for oil, it sends the high pressure oil out through here, and then it goes down that smaller line all the way back. It goes into the side of the tractor there to feed the rock shaft, I assume, and then it comes up here to the remotes and then goes on its merry way. So 2 different types of pumps. Then you complicate that with when it had the steering pump like mine's got, that was an open center pump, so it always was circulating oil through the steering column, making a continuous loop, and the transmission pump making a continuous loop, but that pump only uses oil when it needs it for something. So it's just kind of hanging out there, but they made sure that it had plenty oil available. So if you start using remotes or loader or whatever, and the demand for oil is greater than what that transmission pump can send up here, then it'll start to empty this tank. Gravity, it'll suck it back down out of here using it, and that'll help it keep up with the demand so that you're never sucking air. And that's the way that it's supposed to work. Now, in this particular instance here, I see we've got a lot of leaks on our stuff. We've got leaks there in that hose. We've got, this is probably not the greatest and could stand to be replaced, and so on and so forth. This is not good, but we figured out how to fix that on mine, and that's what we're going to do on this one too. We'll make a steel line back to do that one, and then, you know, we'll just make things more better along the way. What we're going to try to do, I think, looking at this, how it's made now, I'm a fan of not modifying the tractor too much that you couldn't put it back if you decided that it was a failure or something. And so what I'm thinking of doing is, instead of sawing lines and compression fitting in, I'm thinking about just trying to get a T that will go in here and take this union out, replace it with a T, and that's where I'll run my pressure line from. And then this back line back here is the one that actually should go up to this. And if it is, in fact, I thought that it had a hose down there, but I might be wrong. But if it does, I see a hose clamp. So if it switches to a hose under the tractor, I'm gonna see if I can maybe tap into that there. It's kind of crowded though, so I may still have to saw into that line and get a compression fitting, like right in here would be a nice easy place to get to. So I might do that for that one, but I think while we're doing this, we're going to take everything apart. We're going to get all new rubber hose and replace all this stuff, because look at that, I can turn that by hand. So if I can do that, I guarantee you it's leaking, and that's why it's made a mess here and made a mess just about everywhere, really. Now, I mean, normally when I see this kind of mess, I would assume his valve cover's leaking. So we might want to go revisit that also, but we definitely need to clean that up. For whatever reason, the wiring on it looks kind of like a rat's nest. I don't know why that is, if it just came out of the loom, or I guess that's what's happened over time. Yeah, that's brittle, disintegrating. So we'll try to tidy that up a little bit. Here's his wire for his sending unit on his fuel tank, should be anyway. And his gauges quit working after there was a battery explosion, so we might have to investigate that. We probably better check and make sure this line is not leaking. This is like the bleed off line for the pump itself. I'm going to try to wash it as is, but there is there is on mine, there's a metal plate that goes under the hydraulic pump that I think if we took it off, it would open that hole up more. But it's not very easy to get that in and out. So I would rather see if I can just clean it up like this. But if we have to end up replacing this bleed off line, we may be doing that anyway. This is a lot more compact actually than it shouldn't be, but I would say that, I mean, looking at it, I would think that the fuel tank would be the same as mine, and this would be the same. It's got a different radiator, but maybe this is all shrunk down just a little bit smaller. The pump's the same on all of them, because the pump you get as a replacement is, you know, one size fits everything, which consequently on mine made a big difference in its performance, because I want to say the original pump was like a 4-roller pump, and the new pump you got was an 8-roller pump, and that tractor I've got it way outperforms what it used to. I mean, so it made a big difference. Now, before we get too carried away, another thing I want to learn is right here. I am missing whatever's on the hood to hold the hood together. And I looked at pictures on the internet trying to see, but I guess I just need to, I don't know which piece does what. Is it hooking on this, or is it hooking, like, does this fall down in between? I would assume that this goes through that slot, maybe that's all missing off of mine. And then I don't really know what the it doesn't really make sense to me though, does it? I mean, how would that capture? I guess the flat plate would be under here and it captures it. So we'll have to take my hood off at some point and see if we can figure out how to make that better. I'm going to take pictures of this good and maybe some measurements, and maybe we'll just take my hood off while this one's still here so we can make what we need to make. But I'm almost wondering if what's happened on mine is if this whole plate is falling out of here, this like reinforcing plate that has and then this tab broke off. I don't know. I just know that this one's working and mine does not. So yeah, I'm gonna hook up the little pressure washer deal, and I'm gonna let her eat, and we're gonna see if we can make this thing not so black colored anymore. Maybe bring back some green paint that's hiding underneath, and then when it's nice and clean, we'll be able to see what we need to do. He mentioned he wants that belt replaced if he can find his new belt, because that ain't a fun time, friends. You got to take that coupler loose that runs the hydraulic pump, and you just don't have any room in there. It is a bear. I guess if you pulled the radiator, you probably would have a great time, but if you just want to change a belt, it's a trick. We did that in a video, I think, on mine. You know, when it messed up, we put that coupler in, and it's an adventure. But anyway, enough talking. I'm rambling on. I'm looking at everything. I'd say that a new manifold is in his future, because I don't like that exhaust leak that it has. Look at that. It doesn't have any gasket there anymore, and the manifold is cracked, it looks like. So that would explain why it's so loud sounding under the hood. And if nothing else, a good reason to justify replacing a manifold for that is it is responsible for making a lot of that dirt and blackness and trash that is accumulated, because that exhaust blows up in there and it's kind of got sometimes unburnt fuel and stuff into this moist air, and stuff sticks to it, and then you get this sooty stuff all over everything, and it just makes it a problem under here. But yeah, it looks like somebody's whacked the manifold at some time, or hit the muffler and broke that off, and that's where we are. But these aren't that expensive in the grand scheme of things, and I think that it would be well worth it to just get him a different one. So I'll probably go ahead and do that before we're done, because I think we're going to come in pretty good in his budget of what he wanted to spend, but you never know, you know. So yeah, for the 4th or 5th time now, I'm going to put you down and wash this, and then we'll go on to perhaps maybe doing a little research there, taking this loose and making sure that passage goes out the side, or if it goes down, when we don't need the side cover. But we need to verify before we just do things. So step one, wash. Well, that's much more better. We can see green paint in there again. There's still a little bit of trash, but once I got that hole opened up down there, I could blow the stuff out through there with the washer. So if you got one of these tractors, try to keep that clean to that hole, and then it won't, you know, if you periodically wash in there, the trash should run out. But I think I'm gonna let it sit here a little bit, and then I'll probably wash it again, because usually it seems like you think you got it all, and then you find a lot more. And like that Alice Chalmers, I had to wash 3 or 4 times to get that to happen. That area there is pretty nasty, so we'll let it dry a little bit, and then I'll wash it again, and that should do what we want. I also learned something pretty important that I don't have anymore, but check this little doogie out. This is the thing that captures the hood. So I need to see about getting some of these or making some for mine, and then that would be easy because those are long gone. And then I need to see about my hood, whether, yeah, what combination of that stuff I need and don't have. But I'm thinking there's nothing left. I'm thinking when I looked at it, there's no tab here and that tab's broke. So we might have to make us something to make that one more better. But she's coming along, friends. That wash job did a lot for it. So now we can see what we're working with. Like I said, another washing, and I think it'll be ready that we can tackle working on it. I've already figured out more stuff, you know, like the manifold. We'll just get a different one of those. And once I verify that steering column is the drain hole is what I want, then we can just go hog wild in the shopping cart online and order a bunch of parts. And then I'm fairly confident anyway that this is going to work no matter what. I don't see a reason why it wouldn't. I've looked at probably 1,000 pictures of tractors of this body style on the internet, and there's a few of them I've seen with 2 lines running down like they did what I'm thinking about doing. So I think it will work just fine. But yeah, better safe than sorry, I guess. And we got to take it off anyway to do it, so we might as well check ahead of time just to make sure. I might even not take it all the way loose. I might just see if I can loosen that steering column and screw it up in the air a little bit to see that hole, because it should be about right there, straight down, and then make sure that passage goes out the side, and we'll be in Fat City, my friends. All right, curiosity's got the best of me, and I think I'd like to wash this one off too. There, that's been bothering me since I got that, you know, cleaned up. But I gotta know, what do I have left? And the answer is, in fact, nothing. I thought that was the case. It's all gone. There is absolutely nothing left anymore. And that's what our trouble is. I need that reinforcement plate so that it fits over that pin and it doesn't spring out. And then this hood would stay down like it's supposed to. And I bet it's missing on both sides, because I'm pretty sure that I looked and it didn't exist. So I am going to have to do that thing. But I'm going to drive this up there and probably wash that all off. This plate I looked up, I can still get it from the Deere store. What do you figure a flat plate with a couple nuts welded to it would cost? Well, if you guessed about 50 bucks a piece, you're right. I could probably make that, but I'll probably just bend down and take it, you know. They make it. I might just buy it. I don't know. I'm thinking on that yet. I got this other one here now. I could definitely have a good pattern, but is it worth it by the time I screw around for an hour or two making plates and getting them to fit in there? it would probably just be better, less frustrating to just, you know, buy them. I wish I could find them laying around here, because I bet he took them off, and they're probably here. The reason there's two holes, it's supposed to be like that plate would have a bolt here to hold the plate in, and then the other hole holds it on to the tractor, and then that helps reinforce that hood. So I don't know, is it worth it? Who knows? But to find another hood for one of these is super expensive. I looked online, and like the only one I could find was like $600. So I don't think that's going to happen. I can get a couple little welded plates and go again and make something for that. This is the perfect time, though, because I've got another tractor I can use as patterns, you know. I could bend up the thing, cut a thing with a slot in it, and probably end up burning my decal off, but that's not the right decal anyway. When I painted this tractor, they didn't have the right one, and it's too short. This is supposed to be up here. The original went the whole length of it, and then the numbers went back here like this. But this is what they sold me when I ordered it, so I don't know what the deal is there. I think they made an extender piece in some kits I've seen, but the extender piece would have to go in the middle. It couldn't, I'd have to cut this for it to be like it's supposed to. Someday we'll maybe get it repainted right again and make it pretty, because even these aren't the right way. This is the right number, but the original had like an outline on it, and then the inside was yellow, and I think it even had like a textured checkerboardy look to the numbers or something. I just remember this is not the way it's supposed to be. But those did in fact come from the Deere store, all these stickers. They're just not what they were originally. So anyway, I'm going to move this up there next to that other one so we can wash it. And come to think of it, it's warm enough today, I might drive back over to Dad's and dig through the parts pile and see if I can find those seat braces. The guy that has the 1020 called me, and he said he found one of his old seat braces, so I might have at least one. But it would be cool if I could just find the two that came off this tractor, because I know that we took them off when I took that seat off. But whatever, that's my life. All right, so I got these both cleaned up fairly decently, and then my little DeWalt gizmo quit working, and I kind of decided, who cares? Just let that be tomorrow's problem. So I was standing down at the barn enjoying my life, just watching the cows, and I hear the old Cyclops popping down there in the woods. So I guess we're going to drive down there and figure that out. Of course, it's getting dark, so we're going to be working in the dark probably. But yeah, somewhere there, Buddy the dog is going by. Not right, Buddy the dog? Sure. All right. Let's take this on our journey. Normally I would probably walk, but I guarantee it's muddy, so it'd be a lot easier to just ride this through the ocean. Favorite time of year when it's all mud, absolutely everywhere. We might as well drive along and check it all, but I can kind of narrow it down to where I hear it, and it's not over here. I hear it right over there. All of this water's probably electrified. No. I gotta figure out how to get to it now because I'm on the wrong side of the tracks here. I should have drove a little further. I'll just go over here where I can grab onto the fence. Hold it. It's arcing out against that tree. I betcha. That's handy. Let me drive to the other side so I don't have to keep crossing the water to get to my supplies. I did bring supplies, believe it or not. Probably not the right ones, but I brought some. Oh, come on now. Let's go see that we didn't bring enough stuff to fix this problem. It's arcing out on the bottom of the old tree. Look at that. Can you see that? It's actually arcing out to wood. So that's nice. Now the question is, what did I bring that would fix that? Not much. A simple push on the wood post and knock it crooked will solve our problem. It's been burning the tree down. Isn't that fun? I suppose a smart man would have brought a fence post. He could have put in there and kept it away. I got a bunch of these rubber things that a guy traded me one time. He decided he didn't want to pay for corn, so he bought me a whole bunch of fence crap that I didn't really want. I've been trying to find a use for these. And I thought what I would do, based on somebody's comment, is maybe from now on use them with the insulators and just wrap the insulator inside it so it protects it. But I don't know. If I do nothing, it's going to eventually tilt back over and cause trouble. But that did solve the problem for today. So what should we do? Walk away and forget it and monitor the situation? Come back in a day and fix it? Probably. Probably. This all needs redone. I mean, I don't like the way that it is. And that's just the way it happened. You know. I probably, now that see, there was a pretty aggressive tree right there, and he went around it. And now the stump is rotten. It fell, and I sawed it off to get it out of because it was half fallen on the fence. But I should probably come back sometime now and just saw that off and move those two posts so they're more in a straight line. And then this probably wouldn't happen to me. But like I said, it all needs done. That all needs rebraced because look how far over it's tilting. But that was his way of doing things. And it's not the same as my way of doing things. So I'll probably change it. But for today, I guess we'll leave that way. I really wish that these things were like split, so you could put them over a wire that's already there instead of having to feed it through. Because in that case, I'd just slip it right over there and be done with it. But that ain't gonna happen. So, anywho, yeah, I guess we will call this a video. It turned out way different than I thought it was at the beginning. That's the way she goes. Isn't that nice? All clean and green. And now I'm filling it up with mud again. But we'll enjoy that for a while. But yeah, this is going to be mud season from now on for a good while. So we're just going to have to deal with that. But I think we got her squared away enough to call it a day. And they're not even going to come out here. They got plenty food up there. And when it's not nice weather, they stay pretty well where you feed them. So they don't realize that they could get out here because the pen that they're in is not complete anymore, and they could walk right out here, but I don't think they figured that out. They keep wanting to go to those new gates I put in, and then they're closed, so they don't think they can get out here, but whatever. I got more fence supplies yesterday to try to continue on our way like I talked about before, and make that pen behind the barn another secure place that I could keep them. And I think I'm going to do one on the other side too eventually, which we never had, but I just think it'd be nice to have 2 or 3 places that I could isolate them all in an emergency, or like in wintertime, we could have an emergency bail in different places and then just open gates and let them through if it gets really nasty, you know. And then that also would help in the mud season, where you don't have to be driving over the same stuff all the time and rutting it all up. You could kind of share the wealth, you know. But I think we're gonna leave this one here because, yeah, I'm hungry and tired, and it's getting dark. It's the end of the day. It's time to forget it, and then I can go inside and edit these videos for hours and hours. So I guess that's what I'll do. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.